here he is in all his shininess. Olivier, tell us a little bit about you, how you started doing all social media. They're all of them. And then if they have questions, they'll ask you.
Perfect. Okay. Well, welcome. I mean, thank you for having me at your in your class. It's quite an honor. I'm actually calling you from the south of France right now, so I'm not super far. Usually, I'm on the East Coast in the United States. So let's see. How did I get started in social media? Well, actually, quite by accident. It wasn't something that was planned. I've been a marketing guy for a really long time. I started really in inside sales and just marketing communications, and progressively moved into different areas of marketing. At one point, I was for a few years I was a marketing product manager. So I moved away from just pure communications and moved into product design and really what ended up being the early days of crowdsourcing, before crowdsourcing was a word, before most companies were collaborating with their users, with their customers to design better products, to improve them. That's something that my team and I was already doing, even before really social media was part of it. We just basically used email and telephone and face-to-face communications, just going out places and meeting with people, and they helped us, and then we would go back to the office and tinker a little bit with the product, and then go back out and show it to them. So I've worked in a number of different positions in the marketing world, from copywriting to management to business development to design, and so my first impression of social media when I started using it, which was just blogs and sites like BuzzNet and things that were around before Facebook and to a certain extent even before MySpace, was that it was really interesting. It was fun. It was a way of communicating with people that didn't really exist before, and that brought a sort of democracy to media. And the interest for me is that I didn't have to pitch an editor at a magazine. I didn't have to pitch a producer at a television station. I didn't have to produce anything and try to distribute it through regular media channels. I could start a blog for no money at all, and start sharing ideas with people. Not just write my own stuff and publish my own stuff, but read what other people had to say. Read their studies, read their opinions, read their experiences, learn from them, and engage with them, one-on-one or within the scope of a bigger conversation, and share ideas and have discussions that where I was working, I really couldn't have with anybody else, right? I mean, I could go to the engineering department, I could go to the sales department, and we could talk about things that were very specific to the company that I was working for. But for the bigger discussions and the kind of big idea discussions that I needed to have, that I wanted to have, there wasn't really a community where I was where I could really do that, and especially not one where I could do that every day or any time of the day whenever I wanted. If anything, there were professional associations that I could go to their little luncheon once a month, or their little beer sampling party once a month, but it wasn't enough. It was social, but without really much purpose. So the early days of social media kind of opened up those possibilities for me, and so I jumped in before really I understood the notion that it would be a huge game changer for businesses. In terms of capabilities and in terms of the way they communicate and interact with customers. So for me, it was just really more professional development and fun and kind of a creative outlet. I remember in the early days, really most of what I did online was write about ideas, share ideas, and even just play around with photography and design and things that interested me that were kind of related to my business, but in a way really not. And so fast forward a few years, in 2008, I was working for a company then that was very old school, very old fashioned. Ironically, they're a technology company, and they make a ton of money basically distributing things, products from Microsoft, HP, Dell, Adobe, etc. So basically all the technology that you guys use, all the technology that I use, was really going through this company, from the manufacturers, from the vendors, down to the consumers, us. But what's really strange is they didn't understand this change in media. They were still using old media. They were afraid of social media. They were afraid of blogs. They were afraid of Twitter, which was brand new at the time. They didn't know what to do with Facebook, so the IT department was blocking it on everybody's computers because they thought it was just people wasting time. And I came into this environment, and it was really hard. It wasn't my job to build a social media program. I was in charge of Microsoft sales and marketing for North America, and I needed to have a blog in order to communicate with the Microsoft community around the country and actually around the world, and to be able to communicate with the product managers in Microsoft. So, in a way, we needed to find a way to connect this company with the rest of the world, and the way that all of these communities were working with each other. So it took me about 6 months to convince them to finally let me build a blog, and we did. So I created the first blog for them, and we ended up tying it to their internal community of resellers, and we discovered something really interesting. Once we built it, and once we started asking the people that we were trying to reach, the people we were trying to create value for, what they wanted, they told us. And one of the biggest realizations at that time for this particular company, and a realization that companies still haven't really come to, as I consult now and as I work with a lot of companies, is that you don't have to guess at what's coming. You don't have to guess and try to figure out what you're going to do. The emphasis on strategy is a little overblown. So I remember with that particular company, I was sitting in these meetings. After I told them, okay, let's build a blog, let's start building a community, let's start inviting our users to join the community and see what they want to do. The conversation would invariably shift away from me and from the community. And you'd have all these senior executives who understood nothing about the web, didn't understand anything about communities, digital or otherwise, started talking to each other about all the things that they wanted to do, and the communications and the trade dress and the content and the strategy, and it started going off into these crazy tangents where we would go through a meeting for an hour and people would talk and nothing would get done. And you'd come back a week later, and they would have the same conversations over again. And then invariably somebody would say, but why are we doing this again? And it was just this vicious cycle of kind of, this weird, ignorant, stupidity. So finally I met with the president of the company, and I was like, look, this is going nowhere. It's stupid. You don't have to guess at this stuff. It's not a marketing thing. It's not a customer service thing. It's a lot of different things together. The community's not for us. It's going to benefit us for sure, and it's also going to benefit the members. But look, it's their community, right? We'll manage it. We'll build whatever they want us to build, but ask them what they want. Just, you have the channel. Just seriously ask them the question. Don't try to guess. And so we started doing that. We just put the question out there. Well, actually, I put the question out there. What would you like to see this community be about? What are the capabilities that you'd like for us to bring to you? What would you like to do? And of course, a lot of them said, I don't know. We don't know yet. But a few people had a few suggestions. They wanted, for example, if they were on the East Coast, to be able to find partners on the West Coast and build new capabilities. So if one particular reseller was very good at software as a service, for example, but they didn't know a whole lot about servers, they could find someone outside of their area where they operated and partner with them and be able to cross-consult across both coasts. And so we started seeing a lot of collaboration from companies that were in our network that at one time had thought of themselves as competitors. And all of a sudden they weren't. They were collaborators, and they were just forming these units across the country. And for us, for our company, sales started to go up. We started to get a lot more mind share and a lot more wallet share in those particular groups that before that point had been really focused on price. They were buying their stuff from different distributors, our competitors, based on price, based on availability. But because of the network that we built, what we created was a sort of practical loyalty, where all of these companies started working with us more, and we started working with them more, and we had more visibility on what they were doing and what they needed. And so we were able to understand how we could help them better, how we could build new programs, new services that would give us an advantage over our competitors. And so over the next 6 months, we shifted the focus, which until then had been purely on price, and we shifted it to value. And in turn, those particular businesses, those customers of ours who were resellers and who were selling to consumers like us, started to understand how to shift their business away from just price points and price wars and shifted it to value by repeating what they were doing internally, externally. So we started seeing that they were using social media, as they now understood it, to communicate with their customers, to bring them new offers, to engage with them, to find out how they could serve them better. And that basically just kind of created this big boost of sales and business and opportunities and leads for them, which in turn came up to us. So my foray into social media, the way that I came into the social business aspect, the business integration of social media, in a way was really a result of that. The first step was this kind of experimentation with ideas, just personally. Then the application, quite by accident or by default, for this particular company, and then learning how all the pieces started to fit. So that was essentially the start of it. Long story short.
So well, I have a couple of questions. These guys are doing for their assessment a social media audit, with their audits, they had to do something that I think it's absolutely great, and that is to find clients within the area where we learn, and clients that have adopted social media. But in the process of building the audit, one of the questions that they have to ask the client is what they want from social media. See, I told you. So, what piece of advice would you have for them? Because right now, after a whole semester going through metrics, through policy, through making a differentiation between goals, tactics, targets, they find themselves with all this knowledge in their notebooks, and sorry, there's another call that we need to postpone, and they don't exactly know where to start. What would you recommend them to do?
Right. Well, I don't know. Have they read my book by any chance?
Have you?
Was it part of the course? Yeah. Let's have a show of hands. Who's read the book?
Yeah.
Sweet.
There we
awesome.
Go.
Very good.
Well, they've seen parts of it anyways. So,
right.
And we've integrated most of it in the course. So.
Excellent.
Just give me 1 minute.
Honestly, you can get really bogged down by the details with social media, with any discipline, right? Whether it's just broad digital, social media, advertising, marketing, whatever it is. It's really easy to kind of lose yourself in the tactics and the details, in the tools, and lose track of what you're actually trying to do. The biggest thing to remember is that all this is really it's a tool set, right? It's just a series of channels. They work a certain way, just like television works a certain way, just like print works a certain way. As long as you understand the mechanisms, the social mechanisms that happen, that are very unique to human beings, that are very unique to one particular country, to a particular community, to a particular set of technologies, then you already have pretty much 90% of what you need. The problem is that in a way, it's kind of like riding a bicycle or driving a car. You can be a really good car driver. You can be a race car driver. You can be a great cyclist. But if you don't know where you're going with it, you can have all this talent and this ability and this instinct and this fitness, but you're just going to drive around in circles. You're not really going to do anything with it. You're just going to fiddle. And in the world of business, that's kind of a waste of resources. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of other people's time. So really what it boils down to is you have to find a purpose. You have to find an end goal. So, from a personal standpoint, if what you get out of social media is just, companionship and fun and, entertainment, then you don't really need a goal. You can just get on Twitter and Facebook and blogs and just do whatever you want. Post pictures of chihuahuas and, tell jokes. That's great. If you want to boost your cloud score because it makes you feel better about yourself, you can figure out how to boost your cloud score by spending more time on Twitter, on Facebook, by having profiles everywhere, by retweeting everything that the big A-list bloggers post. So, but that's an objective too. It's silly, it's stupid, it's completely pointless, but the ultimate goal in that is to boost your cloud score. And to a certain extent, it would be to go from, say, a 64 to a 65 or a 65 to a 68. So that's a really simple goal. Businesses are no different, right? So the equivalent of discovering the business goal, the thing that's going to drive your social media activity, is the same thing as the ultimate goal of getting in a car and knowing where you're going to go. So there's a huge difference between driving a car, going on a ride around the country, and saying, okay, today I want to go to Paris, or today I want to go to New York City, or today I want to go to Berlin. And grabbing a map and basically saying, okay, I'm here, it's there, this is where I need to go. What's the best way for me to get there? And what do I want to do along the way? Do I want to take the highway because I want to get there fast? Do I want to take a nice country road because I want to see really pretty landscape? Do I want to have a really good lunch along the way or find a good hotel and have breakfast in the morning? Do I want to go by this one town because there's a museum there or a church that I want to see on my way there? Business is exactly the same way. So the first thing that you have to do always is understand exactly what it is that the business is trying to accomplish. I can guarantee that if you ask the question and the business says, or the business owner or manager or whatever says, well, we need to have a social media program, that's not the real answer. That's like saying, well, I need to go drive my car. That's stupid. You want to do something with it. So you have to keep asking if they don't know. And sometimes they haven't really figured it out. They've been told by their boss, we need a social media program, or we need 100,000 fans or followers, or we need to increase engagement. Okay, but why? So you get them to the next level. Why? Well, because it's good for the company. Okay, good, that's right. But why? What are you trying to do? Why is it good for the company? And ultimately, you're going to get to their goal. And their goal or their reason or their purpose could be something as simple as, our company has a very bad reputation. And we've had some problems, with corruption, with our products blowing up in people's faces or making people sick. And we need to restore the reputation that we had before. We have to fix that. So they want to use social media for that. So once you understand that, then you've broken through. You can have a conversation with them about what that better reputation might look like, what they want their reputation to be. And then from there, you can kind of take a few steps back. Because now you know the destination and you know where you are, so all you have to do is figure out the path. And if social media is a part of that, great. Chances are it's going to be social media and other things, traditional marketing, traditional PR, other things. Ultimately, for most companies, though, unless you're dealing with a nonprofit or an NGO, right, a company that isn't trying to sell anything. They might be trying to, raise awareness for abused children in China, or build clean wells for children in Africa. If that's something totally different. But for a company like a Nike or a Sony or a Ford or a Starbucks, the objective typically is to make more money, right? It's to grow. It's just growth. So the reason behind the reputation fix, right? We have a bad reputation. We've had some problem. We want to fix our reputation. Isn't just there because they want to have a good reputation. It's there because that good reputation helps them do good business and sell stuff and have more customers. So you have to also identify that. And that's where you get into the ROI questions usually. Because ultimately what you want to drive is more business. And that comes in three ways. So the first way is acquiring new customers, which is what almost every marketing program in the world does, and what 99% of social media programs in the world really focuses on initially. The notion is that a new fan or a new follower or a new subscriber is really a parallel with a new customer at some point. If you can get them to be a fan, if you can get them to be a follower and interact with our content on Facebook or Twitter or the blog, then chances are that they're also going to buy something from us. So that's the idea. But there are two other ones that tend to be less conspicuous and that get kind of ignored or pushed aside by a lot of social media programs. And those are the existing customers, which actually are much more important than the net new customers and then the acquisition. What you have with a net new customer is a customer that you've already spent money acquiring. They're already there. They're already buying from you. It's just that maybe they're not buying as often as you'd like, or maybe when they buy from you, they're not spending as much money as they could or as you'd like them to. And so now we're talking not about acquisition, but we're talking about changing two very specific behaviors in these customers, which are the buy rate, right? So if they're buying once a month, you want them to buy twice a month. If they buy every 2 weeks, you want them to buy every week. So that's a very easy way to take an existing customer without having to acquire them. And use social media to remind them or to give them a reason to buy more often. The other way is to take the same customer and say that you have different levels of products. So you have a basic and a premium. If they've been a basic customer because that's where they started and that's where most customers start, you want to develop them using social media, using a number of tools to hopefully try to show them that there's more value in becoming a premium customer as opposed to a basic customer. Or if you're a supermarket, if they usually buy €50 or $50 worth of food, you try to get them to buy just the one more thing. And to give you an idea of what that is, whenever you go to the supermarket and you go to the cash register at the end, there's a bunch of stuff that's really cheap that's just sitting there, right? You have your Mentos, you have your Tic Tacs, you have little Toblerone, you have little toothbrushes, just stupid stuff that you don't really need necessarily. What that is that's a yield strategy. It's the supermarket's effort to try to get you to spend one more dollar or one more euro on your way out. It's the exact same strategy. It's the exact same driver as some of the stuff that you can do with social media, which is to develop a customer by interacting with them, by creating more value, by helping them discover new products or the value of different products, or the value of spending more money with you as opposed to your competitor, to try to get them to move along. And hopefully, if they're happy with it, keep spending more money, keep recommending you to their friends, to their peers, to their coworkers, and share the love, and hopefully kind of infect other people with this newfound value that they've discovered.
Do you have one word to tell them as someone who's already in the field, to them who want to work within social media and digital media? What's your advice to them? Where do they start?
Where do they start? First, know your stuff. The more you understand, the mechanisms behind social media, the more you understand how to balance the human aspect of it, which is truly just about relationships and trust And I hate the buzzword, but really it's true, engagement, right? Conversations between people, building relationships. And then the other side of it, which is much more pragmatic, which is very business focused, of, okay, so we're having conversations and we're having all these, this relationship stuff, but it has to drive certain business objectives. Otherwise, we're just being friendly. We're not being effective. You have to be able to understand both. And most people understands the human aspect of it, the relationship aspect of it, but at the expense of the business aspect of it. So they choose sides, and they either choose the friendly, social, pure side, or they choose the business, pragmatic, sales side. And it's a mistake. And I see kind of almost this war between the two sides all the time, when really it should be 50% here, 50% there. If you only understand the business aspect of it, the technical aspects of it, the measurement, the mechanisms, but you don't factor in the human factor, the face-to-face factor, your social media program is going to look pretty, but it's not going to work. And if you only focus on the friendly stuff, your social media program is going to get a lot of activity, is going to get a lot of comments, but it's not actually going to drive anything. And ultimately, somebody in the company is going to say, this is a waste of our time. It's not really, it's great, but it's not doing anything for us. I need that money for somebody else's budget. So it's really important to understand both sides of it. And never to let a boss or a company culture move you away from one in favor of the other. You always have to personally, yourselves, as professionals, balance those two. I think that's really the most important thing. If you can do that, then it doesn't matter what the company is. It doesn't matter what their objectives are. It doesn't matter what the culture is. Nothing is really going to stand in the way of you doing an amazing job. But if you forget that, even for 1 month, whatever you're working on, whatever social media program you've built or you're managing or being a part of, is going to start to crash. And I see it. It doesn't matter where I go in the world. It's always the same thing. Balance.
Okay. Well, we're running out of time, and I'm sure these guys can track you down on the internet.
Yes. The internet? What's that?
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know.
At the brand builder. And feel free to ask me questions. If I don't answer right away, I will. I'm pretty good about that.
Great.
And it's free.
Well, thanks a million. We'll be in touch again. And thanks for your time. I hope you have sunny days, because we've had beach time at the weekend.
I do, yeah. I think I might actually head to the beach this afternoon.
Great stuff. Well, thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye. Have a good one.